She stood alone. Then her shoes disappeared in under an hour, and nobody saw it coming. One woman said something nobody else in her entire league had the guts to say. And within days, the internet tried to bury her for it. But instead of disappearing, she did something almost nobody expected. She turned backlash into one of the biggest sneaker sellouts women's basketball has ever seen. Stay with me, because the ending of this story is not what you think it is, and there's a twist near the end that even her biggest fans didn't see coming. Before we go further, if stories like this, the ones where an underdog gets attacked and comes back stronger, actually mean something to you, do me one favor. Hit subscribe right now. Not for me. For her. Because creators like us only get to keep telling these stories if people like you decide they're worth hearing. One tap costs you nothing. But it tells this platform that stories about courage, about standing your ground when the whole internet is screaming at you to sit down, deserve to be seen by more people. So subscribe now, before you forget, because trust me, you don't want to miss what happens later in this video. Here's what nobody expected. The loudest sports story of the week didn't happen on a basketball court. It happened outside a sneaker website. Her name is Sophie Cunningham. And 2 weeks before this story exploded, almost nobody outside basketball circles knew who she was. On July 24, 2026, Adidas released Cunningham's very first player-exclusive sneaker, the Crazy Energy, Sophie Cunningham, PE, a pink gradient colorway with cream, light blue, and orange accents, priced around $120. It wasn't even a full signature shoe. It was a smaller release, the kind of drop most players get quietly, with modest sales, little fanfare, and shelves that stay stocked for weeks. That is not what happened. Hours before the release, Cunningham posted a video of herself inside a plain, unmarked delivery van, surrounded by stacks of shoe boxes. No big commercial. No celebrity cameo. Just her, smiling, asking one simple question, who's ready for the drop? That single post pulled in over 500,000 views within hours. And then the countdown ended. Within minutes, most men's and women's sizes were already gone from the Adidas website. Not within days. Not within hours. Within minutes. By around 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the entire release had completely sold out, not just on Adidas.com, but at Dick's Sporting Goods too. Now stop and think about that for a second, because this is the part almost nobody is talking about. Player-exclusive shoes are not signature shoes. They don't usually move like this. Stars with championship rings and MVP trophies and years of signature footwear behind them don't always sell out in under 60 minutes. Cunningham did it with her very first release. So the question everyone started asking was simple, why her? Why now? And that's where this story gets a lot more interesting than a shoe drop, so stick around, because the real reason behind this sellout goes much deeper than sneakers, and I promise the next part will surprise you. To understand what actually happened here, you have to rewind a few weeks, to a moment that had nothing to do with basketball shoes at all. Cunningham had already built a reputation as the toughest personality on the Indiana Fever roster, the player who stood beside her teammate Caitlin Clark on the court, who never backed down when games got physical, who fans either loved intensely or argued about constantly. But what really changed everything was an interview. In an ESPN feature, Cunningham was asked directly about transgender athletes competing in women's sports. And unlike most athletes who dodged the question, she didn't dodge it. She said she wanted to protect young girls in a locker room, or young girls in sport, who shouldn't have to compete against biological men. That was it. That one sentence lit up the entire internet. Some fans praised her instantly, calling her one of the few athletes with the courage to say what she actually believed, regardless of the consequences. Others accused her of being unfairly harsh toward transgender people, a claim she pushed back on directly, saying she had never once said she hated trans people and that she believed there was room, and love, for everyone. When reporters pressed her again days later, she didn't soften her position. She simply repeated it. I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe that. For words that could have ended a career quietly turned into 4 words that made her one of the most talked about athletes in the country. Political figures weighed in. Public support poured in from unexpected places. Former athletes and advocates for women's sports publicly backed her. Meanwhile, critics accused her of putting a target on her own back. And in the middle of all of it, Cunningham kept showing up to games, kept playing, and kept refusing to walk anything back. Here's the part that should genuinely stop you for a second. While all of this was happening online, off the court, something happened on the court too, and it might be the most overlooked detail in this entire story. Keep watching, because what happened next connects everything. Just days after the controversy peaked, Cunningham took a wild detour. She made a surprise appearance as a UFC ring girl during a packed fight week in Las Vegas. It came together with almost no preparation. Most athletes would treat something like that as the highlight of their month. Cunningham topped it less than 24 hours later, delivering one of the most efficient performances of her season on the court, in a game against a team led by one of the league's most decorated stars. It wasn't the kind of individual explosion that breaks record books. But the timing made people pay attention in a way stat sheets alone never could. By the time the sneaker released, Cunningham wasn't just a role player anymore. She had become a name people searched for, argued about, and, apparently, wanted to wear on their feet. And that's exactly what made the Sellout so remarkable. This wasn't a case of a company convincing people to want something through months of advertising. Adidas didn't have to manufacture demand. The demand was already there, sitting, waiting, before the countdown even started. After the shoes disappeared, Cunningham posted a simple thank you to her supporters, telling them they had truly shown up, and that she felt nothing but genuine love for them. Then she asked her followers a question that tells you everything about where this story goes next: should Adidas make more? Now here's the twist almost nobody is talking about, and if you've made it this far, you deserve to hear it. This entire moment, the shoes, the sellout, the sudden fame, didn't happen because a company got lucky. Cunningham had been with Adidas since 2022, quietly building a relationship, appearing in campaigns most casual fans never noticed, long before anyone was fighting over her opinions online. The brand had been patient. And when the internet exploded around her, Adidas was already standing right there, ready. So was this really about a shoe? Or was the shoe just the moment the rest of the world finally caught up to something that had been building for years? That question is exactly why this story isn't over. Because whether you agree with what she said, or you don't, one thing is undeniable: she turned a moment that could have ended a career into one of the biggest merchandise stories women's basketball has seen in years. And if a single interview and one sneaker drop can do this much, imagine what happens the next time she opens her mouth. If this story kept you watching until the very end, that's exactly why hitting subscribe matters right now. There are more stories like this coming, stories about athletes who refuse to stay quiet, who get attacked for it, and who come back louder than before. You don't want to miss the next one. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and I promise, the next story will hit even harder than this one did.